Hey everybody, this is Mark,
This is Ashley.
and this is Awkward Fist Bump Productions.
Boom.
Boom. So this week, let's talk about Zac.
Let's talk about Zac. This is a
Who
journey.
is,
What? We're at 5 years in the making since he went on the show.
I know, right? Some
We have a
people might
lot to
actually
cover.
be, some people might actually watch the show and be like, "Who's Zac?" So
Mm-mm.
for many of you that tune in, you know Zac is like the original goat. I know there's been a couple of
Mm-hmm.
people throughout the series run that are considered goats. Abner, Nate, Tony. A lot of those guys are considered goats, the OGs. But Zac is the original OG.
Yes.
So if you still have trouble placing him because maybe you just started tuning into 60 Days In after season 1 and 2,
Welcome
here's a
Netflix. Ugh, I can't even talk. Welcome
no,
Netflix viewers.
I know. You guys are gonna have to watch it on Hulu. There's a couple of platforms they can watch all the seasons
Roku.
on. Roku, even YouTube, I think now.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, here is Zac. Roll it.
I'm 37 years old, come to jail for OD. Hey, what's up, Zac? Still here. I couldn't talk, bro. I'll never forget it was chicken parmesan day. I'm stirring the spaghetti sauce and the stove ain't even on or nothing. My crew guy he looks at me and he was like, "Oh my God, Bert, ripped."
My strategy is basically try to make them accept me as one of their own, because that way I feel like I can find out where the drugs are coming from.
Nurse Mike snatches me up, literally has me by my neck, dragging me around. I'm like, "Kid."
It feels like the guys are starting to accept me as one of their own. Lately, they've been talking about things in front of me, not trying to hide anything from me. So I feel like my strategy is definitely working.
And in my mind, I'm normal, I'm cool. No, it's bad. They take me to yeah, and I was high for 30 hours.
I'm trying to listen to everything they say just to see how drugs are getting into the facility and who's doing it. Obviously, those guys are the ones that are less trusting. They're more suspicious of anybody.
That's why I just left it alone for a little bit.
So it's definitely a little bit tougher, but I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job of getting them to accept me.
That's legit.
That's where I'm from. It's a timepiece, you know what I mean?
Okay, so now that we're all on the same sheet of music, that's Zac.
He had quite the story. He had a lot going on while he was in there. Not just
Mm,
being the first one in, but he had the situation where he called the other inmate a bitch. He had, the
ooh,
issues
yeah.
with the guards taking and going through his personal items. Like, I mean, he had a rough go of it, and nobody knew how to do 60 days in. He kind of paved the way and created the basis for what it's like to be an innocent undercover inmate.
Because by the time season 5 had really come out, people knew 60 Days In. So I've seen a lot of people say how season 5 it was like the first season that had a reality show feel.
Hmm.
But season 1 and even season 2, which Ashley were on, is really kind of raw, and
Hmm.
and it just feels a lot realer. Even though I'm not saying our seasons weren't real,
Yeah, no, they
but
were very real, but it was so like we had more of a foundation because you got to watch all of seasons 1 through 4.
no,
I
one
got to
through
watch
three, yeah.
one, two, through 3, and I got
Mm,
to watch all of seasons 1 through 5. I got to see everything before I went in, so
yeah.
we had a better understanding of what
We
60
were
Days In is.
Yeah, and what we were getting ourselves into. But let's talk about Zac. Zac, as you already pointed out, it was not a show. Like
Hmm.
they came up to Zac, and I know I've heard some of the other seasons. I don't know that I remember Zac talking about it, but I know some of the some of the previous participants have told me when they approached him in the beginning, they said it was just going to be one episode, just a documentary
Hmm.
show,
Yeah.
just one episode that talked about. So they knew they were on TV, but
Hmm.
as you so candidly pointed out, they had no baseline like we did to look at the previous seasons and say, okay, how do I do this? So
Yeah.
let's talk about them. I would
Yeah.
say,
So, oh, go ahead. Go
oh,
ahead.
just real quick, I would say
Yeah.
his previous experience as a Marine, which is still a present day experience. He is still in the Marine Corps. But that
Mm-hmm.
being said, really helped him tremendously. Go ahead with what you were saying.
I was saying that, so Zac, and I hope he'll comment and correct me if I'm wrong. He was recruited from like Reddit or one of those online blogging communities where he was talking
Hmm.
about incarceration and the military and political stuff. Like he was making a couple of political statements, and one of the recruiters for 60 Days in saw that and was like, "Well, this guy's pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and pull him in and see what he has to say." Long story short, he ends up in Clark County, Indiana, and he's one of the first people in the jail. Um, and I feel like you're right with his Marine background. It made it so
Hmm.
much easier for him to transition because you and I are both military people, and you
Hmm.
know that they will randomly throw you in naked into a shower with a bunch of people you've never met before in your life, line you up with your shirts off to get shots with people you've never met before in your life. You'll eat, sleep, use the bathroom with, train with these people. So a jail environment is really kind of no different than a basic training environment, in my opinion, as far
Hmm.
as the closeness to human beings that are considered strangers.
And you get all sorts of people. Like the
Mm-hmm.
military, you get all sorts of different people.
Mm-hmm.
And in jail, it's the same difference, with the exception of most military people haven't broken the law, but some have. But that's an entirely
Mm-hmm.
different topic we can talk about on another episode, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, but that being said, I would say Zac was a natural at it. I mean, he's got
Mm-hmm.
the type of personality. Okay, so last week we did Robert, and Robert was on the opposite end of the spectrum from Zac. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I hate even putting Robert's name in the same sentence as Zac. So, Zac's, I apologize if you consider that disrespectful. But Zac was the complete opposite. He was able to go in, he was able to adapt, he was able to become friends, and even the what you were talking about, there was one scene where he slipped up and accidentally called someone a bitch.
Yeah.
And in jail, on the guy's side, that is the one word you never call another inmate unless you
Yep.
expect to fight right then and there. But he's
Mm-hmm.
so resilient that he was able to say, he was able to rectify that situation with no blows
Mm-hmm.
being landed.
Yeah, and
So,
I think that speaks a lot for his character because you and I both know inmates thrive on respect. We can go in there and be undercover, and as long as the focus of our mission is not to disrupt inmate life and not to get inmates additional charges and take away their dates in which they get to leave the facility. I mean, if we keep the focus on jail improvements,
mhm.
it I mean it shows. It shows who wants to like go in there and mess stuff up or who wants to go in and help. And with Zac's mentality, I think he went in. I mean, they didn't know it was 60 days in. The inmates
Mm.
didn't. So he went in with the mentality of, I'm going to help this sheriff. I'm going to help this community because I know that I'm the one that is capable of doing that. And I also want to draw on the fact that he was the only inmate that we've had on this show, or participant on this show, who's been pulled out and called to court because I think
Oh
he
yeah.
was Zachary Holland, and there was an actual Zachary Holland that had a court date. And
Hmm. They
so, I
pulled
mean,
out the wrong Zac.
yes, and I remember watching that and just like gripping my blanket, like, oh no. And he's just
Hmm.
steady, stone face, just walking in line like he's going to court. And I'm like, man, the amount of trust you had in the producers and the jail staff to keep you out of that situation is like astounding because I don't know of anybody else in future seasons who would have been able to keep that stone cold face and keep their
Hmm.
shit together as they're walking to court knowing that the whole thing is potentially about to be blown up. So that was
I mean,
interesting for me.
I could speak to an extent on our season. I had a court date that was on my paperwork, and on the
Hmm.
day the court date was supposed to happen, they never pulled me out, and so everyone's like, "Dude, when's your court?" And internally, I'm
Hmm.
freaking out. I was able to play it off, but
Hmm.
I mean, Zac was. I mean, I think if they had pulled me and started walking me up to the courthouse, I would have been a little freaked out. So
Oh
props
yeah,
to
like, but
you, Zac.
he didn't even show it. Like on his face, he doesn't portray any fear at all.
Hmm.
And I loved
Hmm.
that. I thought that was so professional of him and so like Like, I mean, he was a rock star. He was an absolute rock star. But so we've celebrated how great he was in the first season.
Well, hold on real quick.
Yeah, okay.
Remember, how quick he was invited into a room. Because remember, when you first got into Clark County, you were out on those little bunks out in the day room, and you were basically allowed to go into a room by invite only. And that was even to pee, by the way. Remember, the toilets were all in the people's rooms.
Because Jeff was never allowed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wow, mad props to Zac on the ability to so fit in that, hey, they're like, hey, come on in, man. You're welcome to our room. Yeah. Now, where were you going next when I interrupted you?
So we've celebrated how outstanding Zac was on season 1. Now, the biggest topic of controversy, the biggest thing that people always want to bring up whenever they want to try to discredit Zac, is his behavior on season 2.
Yeah, because the way he talked to Ashley, at least the way it was pictured,
portrayed.
How he talked to Ashley, he was a real jerk.
Yes. Now
why don't you talk about that?
I can speak on experience about having phone calls being edited by production. Keeping in mind that they have 24 hours a day, 2 months in the year, 24 hours times 60 days per participant. So in my case, that was 8 of us, of footage that they're having to comb through. So in those situations, it is very hard for them to line up phone calls with footage with different camera angles and things like that. So I'm going to say that there may have been a little bit of an editing situation whenever the phone call was made, because what was said was real. What Zac said to Ashley was real. What Ashley said to Zac was real. I feel like in that situation, not judging their relationship, but both of them said things that were hurtful to the other partner. Like Ashley commented saying that jail was harder than him going to war, which you and I have both deployed. So, honestly, in a weird way, I kind of agree with her a little bit, because when I was deployed, I had my group of people that I trusted. I know you're shaking your head, but I'm gonna explain perspective.
Okay.
When I was deployed, I deployed with a group of people I trusted with my whole entire life. If I got into a situation, which thankfully I didn't, I was in Kuwait for the duration of my deployment. So I want to stress that I never went to Iraq. I never went to Afghanistan. So those situations are entirely different from my own. But I had support, and I had love, and I had a family style atmosphere when I was deployed. In jail, I felt like I had nobody. So for me personally, jail was harder than my deployment. That is a non-combat deployment, though, and I want to stress that. I'm not trying to steal any valor. Period. I had a non-combat deployment. But
I could almost understand where you're going with that.
Woo, like that was my camera.
Wow. So while she's fixing that, I do disagree. A combat deployment is pretty hard, but I understand the gist that you're coming with. That is, in jail you have no friends that you can truly trust. So when you do turn to your support network, and you're squabbling, I guess I could understand that. Yes. I could understand where you're saying that.
I don't want to take away from that, because Zac had combat deployments. Zac had a life or death situation when he was deployed.
Yep.
So those words from Ashley to Zac they're hurtful, because that takes away from his, like, man, dude, I could have died over there, But also she's talking about how this struggle with addiction. I think at that time she was 2 or 3 years sober while she was incarcerated, maybe even 4 years. I don't know, and I hope that they comment and correct me on that. But she was newly-ish sober, and so jail felt like a life or death situation for her. Very different.
Let's take up for Zac for a minute, because he was portrayed as he's just he's yelling at her and he's showing no love. Look, at the end of the day, remember, there was a newborn. And I think they had 2 kids at the time, and one was a brand new baby.
No, that was their first one. They had just had the first child, and then at the aftermath, season 2 aftermath, she was in New York and she was pregnant with number 2. Yeah.
Okay. So just bear with me, and if you're a parent and you're watching this, you don't know at what point she called. So I'm going to try to defend my boy here. I'm not throwing Ashley, I'm not throwing you under the bus either.
Yes.
But
Me or
you
other
never
Ashley.
know. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was a new parent and my wife would leave, I was overwhelmed and didn't know what to do. And
Mhm.
so you might have caught him during that. And we all know how edited the show is. They might have taken one phone call where he was stressed out. I don't know. At the end of the
Mhm.
day, we're not spilling that tea because we don't know. But they might have
Mhm.
taken one phone call and split it up to where it looked like it was several phone calls, and he may have been stressed. So I do
Mhm.
want to say that on his behalf is with a
Mhm.
newborn. I mean, you single parents out there, I have mad respect for y'all because I've got three kids of my own, 19, 14, and 13. And if I didn't have a wife, I would have. I mean, you see all the gray I have already right now. It would have been a lot more gray, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but let's move on just a little bit and
Yes.
talk about.
So, and we know there's two sides to every story, but at the end of the day, going after season 1 airs, season 2 airs, and they are back to their normal everyday scheduled life. Okay, Zac and Ashley moved to Las Vegas, right?
Hmm.
Is that where
Hmm.
we can go? Or where are you thinking at on the timeline of events? I'm trying to break down a timeline of
Well, I
where he
was
was,
thinking,
where he went,
yeah.
where he
Well,
is
what I
now.
was going to talk about is how he wanted a career in law enforcement.
Yes, let's
And
touch on
the
that.
big subjects I've seen a lot on the Reddit community. And Reddit, I love you guys.
Hi, Reddit.
Um, Hi, Reddit. Um, but I've seen a lot on Reddit more so than the Facebook fan pages.
Hmm.
Um, well, he was a cop. He was a state patrolman. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay, you take the lead
I'm
on
not
that one.
okay. So I'm not sure where he was a cop at, but he did go through the academy. And while he was still, I'm not sure if he was out of the FTO, field training officer, if he was out of training or not. But at least
Hmm.
during his rookie year, at some point, um,
Probationary period.
yeah, probationary
Yeah.
period, his wife grabbed his service weapon. Something was going on outside and discharged a round.
Hmm.
So that, as a result, because departments don't look kindly on, first of all, you discharging a firearm anyway in the general direction of people. And I don't know if it was a warning shot. I'm not saying she was trying to shoot anybody,
We know
but
nobody was
especially
hurt, so that
we
was
know
the
no
big
one was
thing.
hurt.
Hmm.
But it was still a service weapon, and departments don't look kindly, especially if my wife or your husband were to go off and cap a couple of rounds. That might not be good as law enforcement officers. Now,
No,
your
and
husband's a cop, so
he
but
actually
I'm
worked for the
just
same department as me, so they'd be like, "Oh, he was borrowing your gun. That's fine."
yeah. But let's talk about that for a minute.
Yes.
I mean,
So
I'm
there's not heavy discussion on that on either of their parts that I can really find.
hmm hmm
Like it was. I know that at the end of season 2, when Ashley was released from jail and she went to the hotel to meet up with Zac, I believe he gifted her a firearm of her own. Like,
that shows a
hey,
sense of humor right there.
it's funny and it's also like a big step. Like, hey, I forgive you and I trust you.
hmm
Like, I mean, you cannot deny that the two of them are not perfect together. Like I mean, they
hmm
love each other deeply and it's very obvious. Um,
Well, and
but
my thing is, as bad as he was portrayed, as their relationship was kind of portrayed as kind of toxic during the second season,
mhm.
they're still married today.
Yep.
So something's
Can you
going right in that
imagine?
relationship.
Yep. Can you imagine having a fight with your spouse and having that broadcasted to the world?
Over
Just
and
one,
over and
just one
over.
fight. And
Hmm.
like, I don't fight with my husband hardly at all. But when we have like argued, like the very few times we've argued, I would be humiliated if that were ever
Oh
because I
yeah,
don't mean it. You don't you're
yeah.
mad. You don't mean those things.
Well, and plus you're in a stressful situation. At that point, Ashley was in jail. We can all say,
Mhm.
Zach had just come out. We can all say that's a stressful situation. And I saw
Mhm.
someone actually on Reddit make a comment the other day. Shout out again to you, Reddit community. But anyway, you'd think they were paying us or something. And they were like, listen, these people are in their most stressed. They're very, very, very stressed out, and they're basing a whole
Mhm.
TV show, their whole personalities on being stressed out all the time. So
Mhm.
I say that to say they paint them in a light, but there's a lot of factors when y'all watch the show you don't realize, like how stressed out you are every day. I mean, you've heard me talk
Mhm.
about how little sleep I got there. How do you act even on the outside with a little sleep? So now quadruple that because I'm in a gel environment. So
Mhm.
it's hard to be the
Yeah.
perfect little angel. And so when you do fight, or you're not at your best, but then something like that happens and they portray it, and now forever henceforth, y'all, those two are known for. Unfortunately, that kind of is the side effect. Zac was great, but man, he's a jerk
Mhm.
to his wife.
Yeah. Which is
So
not the case. I mean, and to update them where they are now, because I know if you've stuck with us through the video for this long, you probably want to know how are Zac and Ashley doing today, specifically what Zac up to, because this is our video about him. We will do a video
hmm
about Ashley in the future. They're living in Las Vegas. They're very happy. They're
hmm
raising two beautiful boys. Zac is currently on deployment to a place I'm not going to mention in service of the COVID-19 pandemic with the Marine Corps, and he has a really great future after this deployment coming up in his Marine Corps adventures. He's if you follow him on Instagram, we're going to drop his Instagram information below here so you can keep up with him if you're curious. I mean, he posts pictures of himself in uniform doing physical fitness stuff and a lot of videos of him and his wife together. He likes to prank her. They've got the unashamedly scared page where he just like creeps around
Yeah,
corners and scares her. It's hilarious if you
it's
haven't checked
great.
it out. And I mean, it's they're both very open and very honest about
hmm
where they are in life, where they want to go in life, and how much things have changed for the better for both of them. They both seem really happy.
And I will say, because we've had conversations, we've had so, especially within recent months, we've had a lot of phone conversations, and
Hmm.
Zac is just a good dude.
Hmm.
Like, yes, it sucks to be portrayed in such a light that it carries on with you, but I'm telling y'all, Zac is a great dude. So,
Hmm.
and Ashley, as I said, same thing with her is they're good people. So,
Hmm.
but now we're at the part of the program where we rate Zac on a scale of 1 to 10. Even though last week I kind of cheated a little bit and I gave Robert
A
a
negative
negative
10.
five. Was it a negative 10? I thought it was a negative
I feel like
five.
maybe it was negative. It was
I mean,
negative something.
yeah, but it was worth it. We're talking about Robert, and when we do Steve, it probably won't be much better. But we're at the part of
Hmm.
the program where we rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you give Zac?
I'm going to give him 10 out of 10. He was the OG. He was successful when he was under pressure, when things changed. He was able to roll with it. And the amount of intel he got for Sheriff Noel in Clark County, Indiana, made huge changes for the community. Original GOAT, 10 out of 10.
Yep. I also agree with you. I echo those exact same sentiments. He went in there, being a prior law enforcement officer. He also went in there as a Marine and he killed it. And the one thing you'll notice is the one thing I would like to say up until, well, never mind. I was going to say every veteran that's ever done the show has never quit.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we did have one, and he was a Marine quit, but he's still a good dude. There was
It's
just some
okay.
issues that happened that we didn't see.
And
But
the
I say
army
all
goes rolling along.
of the army, but none of the army participants have
He
quit. So
didn't.
Army one, Marine Corps nothing. Kidding, I'm kidding with you guys. If y'all are Marines, don't kill us. All right, we're just
We
joking.
should
But
mail him some crowns as a consolation gift for like discussing him. Like, here's some crowns. Here's a gift.
but as I said, he went in there, he killed it. He was able, like, he was a chameleon. He was able to blend in. He was able to gain value, as you said, valuable intel, and he was well respected by everybody. So on a scale of 1 to 10, Zac, you get a 10, buddy. So, well, look, thank y'all so much for tuning in. We will be back with our next episode in a few days. I hope you guys are enjoying our new series of episodes that we're doing. Um, in fact, to be honest, I really like Justin's new latest episode. Well, that was actually kind of
Yes.
neat, learning how to cook, jailhouse stuff.
Gourmet prison food.
And then we have Mental Health Monday, where
Yes.
Ashley talks about mental health stuff, and the show keeps rolling along.
We have a
So with
great
that,
guest next week, by
oh,
the
we've
way.
got an awesome guest next week. It's
Yes.
this, I guarantee, next week. will be one of our highest rated videos ever. So you're going to have to tune in. One more thing, if you're still here, you may not be, but if you're still here, y'all got 2 more days to enter that contest. You got to go back a couple of videos to find out what we're talking about to win a chance to co-host with us. Enter. I'm telling you, it'll be fun. Meanwhile, subscribe, like, share. We love you guys.